Morning. Let's begin. Let's begin. So first, I wanna thank Yehuda for giving this show yesterday and inaugurating the new parak. Well, so we have a really beautiful and exceptionally interesting piece of Gemara today. So remember, again, today we're going to continue to focus really on the opening statement of the Mishnah. So the opening statement of the Mishnah, as redefined by the Gemara, was called Zevachim shenis arbu bechatos hamesos or b'shar niskal hafilu achas berivo yamusu kulan. So remember again, the first case of the Mishnah, as reinterpreted by the Gemara, is as follows: if you have an animal that is aser bahana, that is mixed in together with a group of other animals which are themselves mutaros, the presence of the animal which is aser bahana, in this case again we're dealing with sacrificial animals, ultimately invalidates the mixture in its entirety. And in the most extreme case, when we're talking about the types of karbanos that as a result of their invalid status have to be left to die, they would condemn essentially the rest of the group to that same fate as well. So the Gemara yesterday reinterpreted that first case, and we're going to pick up today. Today's daf is Ayin Beis 72, and we are picking up on Ayin Aleph Amud Beis 71b, the last two lines, to which the Gemara explains as follows: Tehedyot nami tarnale. So the Gemara says, now we thought maybe the chiddush over here of the Gemara is as follows. Maybe the chiddush of the Mishnah is that halacha lemaisa. I understand that when you're dealing with sacrificial items, that this halacha remains true. Namely, once again, that if you have something that is not only prohibited from benefit but condemned to die, that gets mixed in with other animals, so it gives the entire group that same status. But I might have thought that halacha lemaisa, when it comes to a mixture that involves non-sacrificial items, that maybe halacha lemaisa, again, we would just say that it's batal. Kamashron, that even when we're dealing with non-sacrificial mixtures, the entire mixture will still be aser. To which the Gemara says, but we already learned that. That's what the phrase means, dehedyot nami tanale. We also learned the halacha when it comes to a non-sacrificial, I guess we'll call, for lack of a better term, mundane or regular mixture. In other words, we'll say, let's just listen what the Gemara is saying over here. The Gemara is saying, we already learned the halacha that if you have an animal that is aser bahana, now lav dafka animal, we'll call it an item, that is aser bahana, that gets mixed in with other things, which themselves are mutter, that ultimately the item that is prohibited for ana precludes the other items from being used, even for what we call hedyot. In other words, even ultimately, again, for regular use. Look at the last Rashi on the daf, the hedyot. So we're going to see this in just a moment. So we learn this again, that even Rabbi say that halacha lemaisa. So really what the Gemara is saying is as follows: when you have something that is aser ba'ana, that gets mixed in with other items, the presence of that item that is aser ba'ana precludes the other items from being used, even for hedyot, even for regular purposes. It asers the entire mixture. So we already learned that halacha as well. The surah hana lo batli beruba, because also we learned in Masechah Avodah Zarah that items that are aser ba'ana are not batal berov, do not become batal in a simple majority. Umisiru lahedjot, and they go ahead and they aser the entire mixture, not only for sacrificial purposes, but even for regular mundane purposes. V'lamale lemisni hacha bechatos hamesos v'shar haniskal. So we'll say, what the Gemara is going to suggest is as follows: if halacha lemaisa, we already learned that if you have a mixture and an item that is aser ba'ana falls into that mixture, that the presence of the item which is aser ba'ana asers the entire mixture, even for what we call lehedyot, even for what we call regular purposes. The Rebbe it goes without saying that that certainly if something that is aser ba'ana gets mixed in with with other animals, that it's going to aser everything for sacrificial purposes and for mundane purposes. So as such, the Gemara is asking why the need for our Mishnah. So the hedyot nami tarnale. So also we learned this before, and again, we're going to see today's daf is really, I don't know if I mentioned, but it's exceptionally interesting and riveting. I don't know if I mentioned that before in my opening remarks. But again, because we're going to get to some basic halachos, some basic yisodistic halachos. So the Gemara says as follows: where do we learn this? Masechas Avodah Zarah. Remember Avodah Zarah? Avodah Zarah. So the Gemara says, "Elu asurin va'osin b'chol shein." These are items that we'll say that are aser, and furthermore, again, they convey an iser status, even in any amount to a mixture. And what are those items? Yayin nesech. So let's remember again, we learned about yayin nesech. So idolatrous wine, if it's mixed in with other types of wine, aser is the mixture afilu b'chol shehu, even with any amount, va'avodas kochavim, and idolatry. So we'll say these are examples of items which themselves are aser ba'ana, and if they get mixed in with any other mixture, then what? They aser the mixture. And we'll say not only that, they aser the mixture ba'ana b'chol shehu, in any amount. So we'll say the point that the Gemara is making over here is, why do I need our Mishnah? Why do I need the Mishnah? Because the Mishnah's halacha, there's something that is aser ba'ana, which gets mixed in with other permitted items, prohibits the mixture, right? Is not batal borov, prohibits the mixture. So okay, so the Mishnah is telling me it prohibits the mixture ultimately again for sacrificial purposes. I already know that, because I already know there's something that's aser ba'ana that gets mixed into a mixture, we'll say, what? Already asks it for what we call lehedyot. Already asks it for simple, regular, mundane use. If an Isser Hana prohibits a mixture for hedyot use, then what? Then it certainly goes ahead and will answer it for sacrificial use. To which the Gemara says, well, say top of Ayin Beis Amud Aleph Tzrichi. No, in reality, you need. I'll tell you why you need the Mishnah and Avodah Zarah, and you need the Mishnah over here in Maseches Zevachim. I'll tell you why. Di'ime Hasam, because I will say, if I would have just learned the Mishnah in Maseches Avodah Zarah, Hava Amina Lehedyot. So we'll say, here's what's interesting. I would have thought, when does it Isser Hana? When there's something that is Asr Ba'ana, if it's put into a mixture, if it's introduced into a mixture, when does it, in what circumstance, does it Asr B'chol Shehu Lehedyot? I would have thought to both say that's dafka only in a case of regular mundane circumstances. Aval Legavoa. But I will say when it comes to sacrificial purposes, Ema lo nafsidinhu lekulu. So we'll say, I would have thought as follows. I would have thought, just see, up until now, we were kind of assuming as follows. If something that is aser ba'ana will aser what we call a hedyot mixture, just a regular mundane mixture, then it's certainly what? It certainly will invalidate a carbonic mixture. I should say, if it will aser, let me say that differently. If something that is aser ba'ana will invalidate a mixture for what we call hedyot for mundane purposes, then it certainly will invalidate the mixture for sacrificial purposes. Because we assume that anything that has to do with sacrificial purposes is always much more sensitive than hedyot items. So if something is asr for hedyot, it'll certainly be asr for karbanos. The Gemara says, maybe not. I might have thought the opposite. I could have made the opposite argument, which is what? So the Gemara says, the imiyasam have a mila hedyot. So from the from Avodah Zarah, what do I learn? That if you have yayin nesech or avodas chacham that gets mixed in with other items, it's aser for hedyot. Aval legavoa ema lo nafsidinu lekulu. So say, actually, when it comes to carbonic items, I might have thought that maybe we're a little more reticent to invalidate the mixture. Why? Because by invalidating the mixture for carbonic purposes, what are you effectively doing? What are you doing? You're depriving the Beis Hamikdash of something. Maybe I'm also ready to do that. In other words, to deprive a hedyot, right? So deprive me as an individual citizen of use of something that Allah is willing to do. To go ahead and deprive the Beis Hamikdash of certain karbanos, perhaps I'm a bit more reticent to do that. So the Gemara says, therefore, so let's read that once more. If it would have just said Mishnah Avodah Zarah, have amin lehedyot, I would have thought that when you introduce an item that is aser ba'ana into a mixture, so it asers the mixture for hedyot purposes, aval legavoa, but for sacrificial purposes, emon lo nafsidinu lekulu. I might have thought that I would not invalidate the entire mixture, and in fact, when it comes to sacrificial purposes, I would have say, what's the halacha? Batal barov. I would apply a simple majority ultimately to asering. I would apply the concept of rov, and therefore again, if there is rov heter over iser, I would have said that the mixture should be permitted for sacrificial purposes. Take a look at the top Rashi. Rashi says, aval kotshim ema li'avid luhu takanta dili batel isure hana beruba. I would have thought again about say the Mishnah Avodah Zarah only teaches me that I don't apply batal barov by hedyot for regular mundane use, but maybe for sacrificial use, for sacrificial purposes, in order not to cause a loss to hekdish, I would have said it should be batal barov. V'neima yikravu kihechi delo nifsidinu gamri lekulu v'imehacha govaiter in the Gemara. And if it would have just taught me the Mishnah over here in Maseches Zevachim, hava amina Hani mili kodshim demois. So we'll say if the Gemara, we just learned the halacha over here by kodshim, namely that's what Rabbi said. What does our Mishnah teach me? That halacha l'maisa we don't apply bittul berov by sacrificial purposes. Then what? I would have said that halacha l'maisa we don't apply bittul ultimately by kodshim. Why? Because it's ma'is. We'll say ma'is means what? It's not nice to offer up a carbon where ultimately, again, the only reason the carbon is effective is because of the mechanism of rove. That's not nice. Aval chulin, I will say, which is interesting, because it doesn't seem to be as much of a halachic argument as much as it seems to be what? Almost like an emotional argument. It's not nice. It's not nice. Aval chulin de lo ma'is. But I will say, when it comes to chulin, where ultimately, again, there's nothing tarnished, and meaning it's not the ma'is. Ima isuri hanali batli beruba. I would have thought Rabbi said that what? So Rabbi said is the counter argument. If it would have just said the Mishnah by Zevachim, so then I would have said, when do we apply the concept of when do we suspend the laws of bittul barov? That's only by sacrificial items, because it's not nice, it's disgusting to offer up an animal that only became permitted through the mechanism of rov. But when it comes to hedyot, there's no mius, and therefore again what? And therefore let the animal be permitted as a result of bittul barov. Therefore tzricha. So we'll say therefore we need both. So we'll say what comes out of here is as follows. Here's what's fascinating about this. We'll say what comes out is, bottom line, it's the same halacha across the board, which is namely that what? Namely that when you have an item that is asr ba'ana, that gets mixed into that is mixed in or introduced into a mixture, what's the halacha? The entire mixture is asr. In other words, that I will say when we're dealing with Isuri Hana, we do not apply the concept of Bittul Berov. The presence of an item that is Asr Ba'ana will invalidate the mixture in its entirety. Now what we see, the Mishnah in Meseches Avodah Zarah teaches me that what? This halacha applies to where? Hedyot. To what we'll call regular mundane cases. That in regular mundane cases, the mixture will all be Asr Ba'ana, even if you have many times more heter. The Mishnah Meseches Zevachim, our Mishnah over here teaches me that what? That this concept ultimately applies by sacrificial law. So whether it's sacrificial law, whether it's what we call hedyot, mundane circumstances, if you have an item that is Asr Ba'ana that is introduced to a mixture, that invalidates the mixture in its entirety, even if there's much more permitted material than the prohibited material. Good. So the Gemara says, let me ask you a basic question. Vini batla beruba. In other words, we are operating with the premise that an item that is asr ba'ana is not batal barov. Why not? Why not? Why don't we say that even if an item is asr ba'ana, ultimately again it should be batal barov? Right? Rashi says over here, uparchinon vini batal beruba da'ksiv achari rabim lahatos. Both said the concept of rov is a biblical concept. Achari rabim lahatos. Remember again, I will say we're going to get into these sugis much more. We saw it a little bit, or not a little bit. We actually saw it a lot in Meseches Avodah Zarah. The primary sugis are really in Meseches Chulin. We're going to get to this, but the concept ultimately on a biblical level is chad b'trei batel. On a biblical level, when you have two permitted parts to one prohibited part, so ultimately again the mixture is batel and it should be permitted. I will say now again. That obviously is talking about specific cases of what they call min b'mino, right? Where you have like items that are mixed together. It doesn't really apply to dissimilar items, but like items that are mixed together are midoraisa batli chad betray. So the Gemara says v'ni batla beruba. I don't understand why we've now established that halacha l'maisa, if you have something that is asr ba'ana and it gets mixed into a mixture, it is introduced into a mixture, whether for karbanos or for kachim or for hedyot, ultimately the item that is asr ba'ana will not be batal. Now the Gemara just backs up and questions that premise. V'ni batla beruba v'chi tema. So maybe you'll say like this: v'chi tema chashivi v'lo batli. So we'll say maybe you'll say, and we're going to see. I will say this is always very interesting that. When something is chashiv, when something is quote unquote important, so it is not batal berov. Now, how to define chashivos? So that's what we're going to have to discuss. So v'chitema chashivi v'lo batli. So maybe you'll say ultimately again that in this case, the most is focusing specifically over here in the case of the animals. Maybe the item is chashiv and therefore it's not batal. Maybe it's not batal. But remember again, we saw this by Avodah Zarah. Remember, where do we see this in Avodah Zarah? By saying that chashav is not batal. So this is the entire issue. Ultimately, again, when it comes to the cheese issue, right? The Gemara discussed the idea that the cheeses were often made with the remnant of the animal. So you have a cheese that was made with the remnant of a non-kosher animal. So the Gemara suggests the Havamina was it should be batal, right? Because at the end of the day, certainly again, it's only a very small amount. So remember again, in that case, the rennet was considered to be a davar chashuv. Why? Because it's what we call a maimid, right? A maimid was the cheese only becomes the cheese because of the coagulant, because of the rennet. Therefore, again, halacha l'mais, that's not going to be batal. So the Gemara suggests over here, vini batlu beruba. So why don't we say that at the end of the day, ultimately it should be batal barov v'chitema chashivi v'lo batli. Maybe you'll say ultimately that the animal is considered to be chashiv and therefore not batal. Now both say. Now here's what's interesting. What would make the animal chashiv, so to speak? To which Rashi says over here, hoil v'darkon limnos. Then I will say we're going to get now into a very interesting sugya, which is the Gemara says maybe halacha l'maisa, because the animal is something that is normally counted as an independent unit. Maybe the fact that it's an independent unit, therefore what? Therefore that precludes it from being batal. So we're going to see what this means in just a moment. So the Gemara says, Hani chalaman da amar. I will say here we're going to get into a fascinating machlokes in the realm of bittul. This is really, I can't tell you how exciting this is going to be. I can't even do it justice how exciting it's going to be. Watch this. So the Gemara says, Hani chalaman da amar, kol shedarka limos shaninu. Elaman da amar es shedarka limos shaninu. Ma'ikal. So we'll say, let's take a step back. Here's what we know. Okay, here's what we know. Really, very exciting. So we'll say here. Let's start with what we know. Any item that is not reckoned as part of a group, but is looked at as an individual entity, is considered to be chashiv. Right? That's in halacha. It's a chashivus. It's a chashivus. So so in general, if it's considered to be part of a group, in other words, if an item, we look at how it's sold. If it's sold as part of a group, then by definition, the individual item itself doesn't necessarily have a chashivus. But if it's sold as an individual unit, then we assume that each unit has its own chashivus. If it's chashiv, that it's sold on its own, then what? Then it's not batal. Now, we're going to see now there's a machlokes. Do we say that an item is only chashiv when sold as its own individual unit, when it's always sold as its individual unit, meaning it's never sold as part of a group? Or do we say no, even an item that is normally sold individually, even though what? Sometimes it's sold as part of a group, that's also called chashiv. Now, I will say this is a major yesodistic machlokes that has incredible ripple effects in the world of bittul. The world of bittul shakes at its core when you discuss this machlokes because this has incredible ramifications. So I'll say the way we're going to term this machlokes is as follows. Hani chalam handamar kol shedar kolimos. We'll say, so what does it mean, kol shedar kolimos? Look at Rashi. So kol shedar kolimonos, Rashi says, sheyesh b'nei adam hamakpidim b'minyanim umochrim b'minyanim shani nudelo batli b'samach bach mishnah dechavile tilson shapir deha behemos nami harbe b'nei adam hamakpidim aleim umochrim osam b'minan. So listen to this. Kol shedar kolimos means as follows. Any item which most often is sold as individual units. Any item that is normally, more often than not, sold as individual units, but sometimes they're sold as a group. So what's a good example of this? Rashi points out, animals. Animals more often are sold as what? Right? So you'll buy a cow, you'll buy an ox. So more often than not, they are sold as individual units, but it's not unheard of that they're also sold as what? As a group, as a herd. It's like Rashi says over here, "Va'afal pi sheish b'nei adam she'in makpidin kolkach umosifin yisera umochrin ha'edras." So more often than not, animals. Let's just keep it as cows. Cows will be sold as individual units, but sometimes you'll buy a herd. Bless you. Sometimes you'll buy a herd, and sometimes again, it's not uncommon that when buying a herd, the seller will what? Add in an extra cow, an extra heifer, an extra ox here and there. So we'll say this is the terminology that's called Kol Shadar Kol Limanos. Kol Shadar Kol Limanos refers to the category of items that are normally sold as individual units, but not always. Sometimes they're sold as a group as well. So we'll say, watch this. So remember, let's take a step. Let me introduce you to the terms. As opposed to Es Shadar Kol Limanos. So we'll say Es Shadar Kol Limanos means what? Look at Rashi. Elaman Damar Es Shadar Kol Limanos. Shadar Kol Miyuchad Lekach. In other words, we'll say Es Shadar Kol Limanos means the item is exclusively sold as individual units, never sold as a group. Rashi says, Elaman Damar Es Shadar Kol Limanos. I'm going to go back and read this back into the Gemara in just a moment. Shadar Kol Miyuchad Lekach. She'in lecha adam dimosef alain yisera. It is only sold as individual units. People never add on, never sell them as a group. Below mocher, below minyan. Honey ain darker miyucha leminyan. Sheish Rabbi say. So now watch this. Let's take a step back. So now you have your terminology, and Rabbi say, these are terminologies. You're going to thank me because in your third way around Shas, when you hear eshadar kolimanos, kol shadar kolimanos, because actually you've had these terms before, you're going to say, Sunday morning, the 11th of Tammuz, Zevachim Ayin Beis. I got it. I remember nothing else from Zevachim, but I remember Esh. That's not true. You know Malika Sa'of. You know Ola Sa'of, Chata Sa'of. I know you're clear on all that. So I'll say, so now watch this. So these are the two categories. Kol Shadar Kol Limanos refers to an item that is normally sold as individual units, but not exclusively. Es Shadar Kol Limanos refers to items that are exclusively sold as individual units, never sold as a group. Now watch this. Let's take a step back. So the Gemara just said before, what did we just learn? We'll say, what piece of halacha l'maisa did we just, or halacha l'maisa, what piece of halacha did we just learn? Anything that is asr ba'ana, introduced to a group, will asr the entire group, and now we've established that is true whether what? Whether it's about hedyot or kadshim. So now we'll say the Gemara takes a step back, and the Gemara says, well, 1 second. Why is it that let's take a step back to the Mishnah and Zevachim. Mishnah taught me that if I have an animal that is asr ba'ano, that is introduced to a group of chulin animals, what happens? It asrs the entire group. To which the Gemara says, well, why is that? Why don't we say, just using the case of the Mishnah, why don't we say that, for example, the shah niskal, right? The shah niskal, the shah that is about to be condemned to death. Why don't we say that if that shah is introduced to a group of other shvarim, that is introduced to a group of other oxen, why isn't that shor batal barov? Right? Why? In other words, why don't we say the shor? You're telling me now the shor is not batal barov. I'm asking you, why not? Why don't we say bital barov? Right, the shor niskal is introduced to a group of a minyan of 10 other wonderful, upstanding yirei shemayim shorim. Why isn't it batal barov? To which the Gemara says, well, let's analyze this. So if you hold, now let's read in the Gemara. So the Gemara says, so maybe you'll say because a shar is chashiv, right? Even an individual shar is a davar chashiv, is an important item. And whenever you have a davar chashiv, something quote unquote important, it is not batal barov. Well, to call a shar a davar chashiv makes sense if what? So we'll say, watch this. That makes sense if you say what? Kol shadar kol limnos, that even an item that is only sometimes sold as an individual unit, but sometimes is sold as a group, that's still called a davar achoshev and not bottle. We'll say that's a shar, because a shar sometimes is sold individually, but sometimes is what? As a group. See, if you hold kol shadar kol limanos, if you hold that kol shadar kol limanos is a davar chashuv, that even an item that, although most of the time is sold as individual, sometimes it's sold as part of a group, that's still chashuv. Okay, now I understand why a shar is a davar chashuv, and therefore even if that shar haniskal gets mixed in with a group of other kasher sharim, nevertheless it will not be batal. However, el laman damar es shadar kol limanos shani. But I will say, watch this. If you hold that the definition of a davar chashuv, Rabbi say, is what? Es shadar kol limanos, which means what? Oh, that it's only chashuv if it's exclusively sold as an individual unit. But if it is sometimes sold as part of a group, then what? Then it is not chashuv. Then guess what, Rabbi say? A shar is not a davar chashuv. If that's the case, then what? Then it should be batal. If that's the case, then when the shor haniskal, this is very exciting, that when the shor haniskal gets mixed in to the minyan of kasher sharim, then at the end of the day, it should in fact be batal. And if it's batal, Rabbi, so we have a problem with the Mishnah. Incredible. So the Gemara says, Michael Amimar, This time, the Gemara is going to tell us the machlokes of what we call kol shadarko limnos, es shadarko limnos. Its source is not here. Its source is in the following Mishnah. A Mishnah Maseches Be'ah. Listen to this, Rabbi. This nan. Misha hayolo chavile tilson. Rabbi, if somebody had a bundle, chavile mer, a bundle of tilson. What's tilson? Rashi says over here, min tav. Look at the last Rashi on the daf. Min tavlin. So tilson is a type of spice. Rabbi was considered to be a very important and expensive spice. Why? V'chavilin chashuv ma'od. The bundles of this spice are very important. Why is that? Sha'af tam ha'etz shavel pri. Because I will say, interestingly enough, because the eitz, now in this case, eitz doesn't mean eitz, rather eitz means stalk. The stalk tasted the same as the seed on top. Obelaz fenugreek. It's fenugreek. So I will say, so fenugreek, apparently, again, the stalk tastes the same as the seed. So the chap is, why is it considered to be such an expensive spice? Because the entire plant is usable. The entire plant is usable. There's no waste. So we'll say, now watch this, it's very exciting. So we'll say, let's say unfortunately, I have a bundle of fenugreek, but it happens to be klaya kerem, which I will say means that I ended up planting it in too close of a proximity to a vineyard, and as such, ultimately, again, the growth is usser. So I have fenugreek of klaya kerem, amud beis. What do you do with your fenugreek of klaya kerem? We'll say, ayin beis amud beis, yidlekub. So we'll say, so again, halacha lamaisa, whenever you have klaya kerem, there's only one thing to do with klaya kerem, and you destroy it. You have to destroy it. So you burn it. This arubach, and now watch this. Here's what's interesting. So now I have this bundle of fenugreek, and the bundle of fenugreek gets mixed in with another bundle of fenugreek. But the second bundle of fenugreek is what? Or I should say, let's make it easier. It gets mixed in with 3 other bundles of fenugreek. Now we'll say those 3 bundles of tilson, of fenugreek, are all mutter. So now I have my one bundle of klaya hakerem tilson that gets mixed in with 3 other bundles, or whatever. You could fill in the number. The point is, it's more than 2 or more. It gets mixed in with others. Or now the Gemara over here has the gersa v'achirim v'achirim, but the Shita Mikubet says the Mesorah Hashas, everybody removes this. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Kulon yidleku div Rabbi Meir. So what's Rabbi Meir paskins? That halacha lamaisa, the presence of the klaya kerem fenugreek will answer the rest of the mixture. So we'll say Rabbi Meir holds that halacha lamaisa, if you have klaya kerem fenugreek that gets mixed in with other permitted bundles of fenugreek, so ultimately again the klaya kerem will answer the entire mixture. So we'll say, but Pashas, what's Rabbi Meir saying? So the fenugreek is aser ba'ana, so the klaya kerem is aser ba'ana, it's answering the rest of the mixture. Okay, now watch this. The Chachamim say, no. Ya'alu be'echad u'masayim. Both say the Chachamim disagree, and they say no. Halacha l'maisa, the klai hakerem fenugreek will be permitted in a 200-to-1 ratio. In other words, both say that they are bottled in 200-to-1 ratio. If you have 200 parts permitted fenugreek to 1 part prohibited fenugreek, ultimately again the tilson of klai hakerem will become mutter. Sure, so this is the machlokes, fundamental machlokes, Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim. Rabbi Meir says the mixture is aser. Chachamim say it becomes permitted in 200-to-1, meaning permitted to prohibited. Okay, we'll say, now watch this. Here we go. Rabbi Meir Omer. Rabbi Meir says as follows. We'll say, now here it is. Rabbi Meir Omer. Kol shedarko limanos mikadish. So we'll say Rabbi Meir holds kol shedarko limanos. So we'll say means what? Kol shedarko limanos means, going back, what is that? How do you understand that phrase? What does that mean? Any item that is normally sold as individual units, but is sometimes sold as part of a group, mekadesh. Which I will say, mekadesh in this context means what? Is not bottle. So Rameir is of the opinion that kol shedarko limanos mekadesh. Anything that is normally sold as an individual unit, but sometimes sold as part of a group, is chashuv, and because it's chashuv, it's not bottle. We will say he uses the lashon mekadesh over here because mekadesh means causes the others to be unfit, right? Remember again, this is, I will say, an interesting idea that we see the word hegdish used in different contexts in a biblical sense. On one hand, Hektish refers, right? Kodesh refers to that which belongs to the Beis HaMikdash. But yet, again, what's the biblical term for a harlot, for a prostitute? Is a Kadesha, right? The idea being that Kodesh represents something that is separated for the extreme. So again, something could solely belong to the Beis HaMikdash, it's Hektish. Something could solely belong to the world of immorality, it's a Kadesha. So the idea over here is Mekadesh means it's Aser. It's Aser. So Meir is of the opinion, he says, therefore, again, Meir will say, what's the pshat of fenugreek? What's the pshat of fenugreek? Bundles of fenugreek. Everyone knows. How do you buy bundles of fenugreek? Sometimes you buy them one bundle. Suppose I want to be clear. When it comes to fenugreek, there's never a havamina. No one buys a stalk. Everybody knows that. You never go buy a stalk of fenugreek, right? Nobody buys a stalk of fenugreek. It's always sold by bundles. The shaila is, can you buy, do people sell one bundle by themselves, or is it bundles? So when it comes to fenugreek, apparently, the normal situation is more often than not you buy a bundle. But sometimes people buy multiple bundles. Now the chap is, whenever you're buying multiple bundles, the chap is that what? Sometimes the seller will not be so mak, but then we'll throw in another bundle. So Rabbi Meir says, Kol shadar kol limanos, anything that is normally purchased or sold as individual units, but sometimes sold as a group, is still called chashiv and therefore not batal. Therefore, when you have the bundle of kloi hakerem fenugreek that gets mixed in with the other bundles, it is not batal and it will answer the entire mixture. The chachamim say no. Eino mekadesh ela shisha dvarim bilvad. We'll say, watch this. The chachamim say there are only 6 things that are never batal in a mixture. Rabbi Kiva says, nah, it's 7. Rabbi say, now look at Rashi just a moment. Ela shisha dvarim bilvad. Hein shemakdishin eskol hamisarvim bohem mitoch shehin gidolim udemeyam yikarim v'chashuvin b'minan. The chachamim say there are only 6 things, Rabbi say, that are so hyper important. They are only sold as individual units, and therefore, again, are never batal. Rabbi Akiva just says there's a 7th. We'll say, what are they? Ve'eluhain. We'll say, what are they? Here we go. Ve'eluhain. Egozei prach. We'll say, it's interesting to see also historically what was considered to be like mamish, like a davar chashiv. Egozei prach. So we'll say, prach nuts. Prach is the name of a place. It's not necessarily a specific species, but rather it was a location. Egozei prach. Ribone badon. So we'll say again, these are the pomegranate. Badon is also a place. Rashi points out that prach u badon mikomosin. I don't know where these places were. Maybe the Steinsaltz Gemara brings it down. So the egoze prach rimone badon chavios stumos. We'll say chavios stumos means sealed barrels of wine. Sealed barrels of wine. We'll say now again. So understand what this means. When we say these items are davar chashuv, what that means is, if these items get mixed in, let's say you have egoze prach, which are orla, or you have egoze prach, which are some other, or rimoni badan, or chavios stumos. I have one, we saw this before, I have one barrel of yayin nesech, of closed barrels that gets mixed in with 300 other permitted barrels of wine. So the chachamim will say, it's going to be aser, because these items are davar chashiv, and we'll say also you begin to see these items are often, well, we'll see. Chilufei tradin. What's that? Chilufei tradin means stalks of beet stalks, kilchei kruv, stalks of cabbage stalks, dela'as yevanis, which means a Greek gourd. So also according to the Chachamim, these are all items that are considered to be a davar chashiv, are considered to be exceptionally important, and therefore again, if they are aser and get mixed into a mixture, they will not be batal. What does Rabbi Akiva add in? Rabbi Akiva adds in Rabbi Akiva Mosif, Af kikaros shal bal habayis. So Rabbi Akiva adds in over here, even we'll say what we call kikar shal bal habayis, which means loaves made by an individual. So we'll say the interesting part over here is that as opposed to kikaros shal nachtum, baker's loaves, which are mass produced and all look the same, kikaros shal bal habayis were obviously not mass produced, were larger and usually had their own unique aspects to it. So haroi la'arla, haroi la'klaya keren. So we'll say, in these items listed over here, if they're arla, then they will aser in a mixture like arla. If they're klaya kerem, they will aser in a mixture like klaya kerem. So we'll say, see, here we go. So now this is the fundamental machlokas between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim. And I will say, no. So therefore, again, in this case, so remember, let's focus on what we have over here. We've got the chavile tilson. We've got the bundle of fenugreek that was klaya kerem. that gets mixed in 2 other bundles of fenugreek, which are mutter. So Rabbi Meir says the entire mixture is aser. The Chachamim say, no, the fenugreek of Klai HaKarim is bottle in a 200-to-1 ratio. So as long as you have 200 bundles of permitted bundles, 200 permitted bundles, they will be mavatal, the prohibited bundles. So also we're going to focus on Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir says that ultimately, now we'll say in Rabbi Meir's explanation, Rabbi Meir says because kol shedarko limaros mekadesh, which means fenugreek is something that is more often than not sold as an individual unit, sometimes sold as a group. It's a davar chashuv, and therefore it is not bottle. Okay, now watch this, Rabbi Say. Now watch this. V'itmar Allah, and it was said about the shita of Rabbi Meir. So we'll say now we're going to see that there's a machlokes in what Rabbi Meir said. You see, the Chachamim are kind of off the table. Why are the Chachamim off the table, Rabbi Say? Why are they off the table? Why are the Chachamim off the table? Because the Chachamim said when it comes to Klai HaKarim, there's a 200-to-1 bittul ratio. So we're taking them off right now. We're not really focused on them. We're much more intrigued by the sheet of Rabbi Meir. Because Rabbi Meir said, so watch this. Well, it's now machlokes. It's Marlo. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan said, Es shedarko limanos shaninu. So we'll say, watch this. So now there's the machlokes. Ultimately, what did Rabbi Meir really say? So Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Meir really meant, Es shedarko limanos shaninu. What Rabbi Meir really meant to say was what? Es shedarko. We'll say, what's Es shedarko limanos? What does that mean? Only an item which is exclusively sold as individual units is considered to be a davar chashav and therefore never batal. Reb Shimon Lakish Omer, Kol shedarko limanos shaninu. Rish Lakish says, no. What Rabbi Meir went to say was what? Kol shedarko limanos. So we'll say, there's a machlokes. Understand, the machlokes here, so we'll say, you'll say to yourself, I don't understand what's the machlokes over here. Rabbi Meir is quite explicit. Rabbi Meir said 3 lines down from the top, ayin beis and beis. Rabbi Meir Omer Kol shedarko limanos. So we'll say, no. The machlokes, Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish, is in that girsa by Chavile Tilson. Rabbi Yochanan says the girsa is es shedarko limanos. The only time Rabbi Meir said that something is not bottle in a mixture is when it's a davar chashuv, as defined as something which is exclusively sold as an individual unit. But if it is ever sold as part of a collective group, therefore by definition it's not a davar chashuv, and therefore what? Will be bottle. Reish Lakish says no. The sheet of Rabbi Meir is even kol shedarko limanos. I will say even something which is normally sold as what? As an individual unit, but what? Sometimes is sold as part of a group, is also called a davar chashuv, and ultimately not batal. Now, boss, so pause here for just a moment. So now, I just introduced you to such a riveting and exciting. You're welcome. You can thank me later, right? But the idea over here is, boss, so now we've seen the machlokes. So now we have a bunch of moving pieces over here. What we just learned over here, boss, is there's a fundamental machlokes in the sheet of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir Rabbi Meir holds that when something is chashuv, something is quote unquote important, it is not bottle in a mixture, even if what? Even if it's 1,000 to 1, right? Even if you have 1,000 permitted pieces to this one item, if it's chashuv, it's not bottle. That's the sheet. Now I will say that's the sheet of Rabbi Meir. Now the machlokes is what? How do you define chashuv? How does Rabbi Meir define chashuv? Oh, that's a machlokes, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan says the way Reish Lakish defines the way Rabbi Meir defines chashuv is es shedarko limanos. Only an item which is exclusively sold as an individual unit, never sold as a group, that's chashuv and not bottle. Reish Lakish says no. Rabbi Meir holds kol shedarko limanos. Any item which is normally sold as individual units, but sometimes sold as a group, is considered to be a davar chashuv and therefore never bottle. We'll say, okay, now you got the machlokes. Now we're going to plug this back. Remember again, what was our problem with our Mishnah? Our Mishnah taught us, I don't mean to keep it for myself. Our Mishnah taught us that if you have what? An animal which is prohibited by law, like a shar, let's just use shar niskal. A shar that's going to be killed. It was used for avodah zarah, killed someone else, whatever the case is, right? So we'll say if I have a shar niskal, and that shar gets mixed in with 10 other permitted shvarim, what's that? What did the Mishnah teach me? The entire mixture is bottle. So okay, so we'll say, so we're asking, why is that? Why is that? So watch this, Rabbosai. Hanicha, our Mishnah that says that when one Shar HaNiskal gets mixed in even to 100 other permitted Shvarim, so that it's Asar, that makes sense, l'Reish Lakish. Rabbosai, watch this. So our Mishnah works well according to Reish Lakish, which Rabbosai really means what? Really means our Mishnah works well according to Reish Lakish's interpretation of Rabbi Meir. Because what does Reish Lakish? What's Reish Lakish's interpretation of Rabbi Meir? What does he say? Kol shadar kol imanos. Remember, we'll say, animals are not eshadar kol imanos. Animals are kol shadar kol imanos. A shar, Rabbosai, is something that is normally sold as an individual unit, but is sometimes sold by the herd. And when it's sold by the herd, it's possible that what? That the owner's going to put in, seller's going to put in an extra one, take out an extra one. It's not precise. So Rabbosai, so watch this. So our Mishnah tells me that if a Shar HaNiskal gets mixed in with another group of kosher, upstanding Yirei Shamayim Sharim, that the Shar HaNiskal is a davar chashuv, not batal, and therefore the entire mixture is permitted. A shar is kol shadar kol limanos. Now you're telling me that what? So now you're telling me that Mishnah is teaching me that kol shadar kol limanos is considered to be a davar chashuv and is not batal. Whose interpretation of Rabbi Meir does that reflect? Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish. So Rabbosai, which is fine. The Mishnah works beautifully according to Reish Lakish. Therefore, I understand now the shar niskal that gets mixed in with the other shvarim is going to aser the entire mixture, and that's based on the idea that the shar haniskal is a davar chashuv, and we're using the definition of a davar chashuv of kol shadar kol imanos, which is Reish Lakish's interpretation of Rabbi Meir. Beautiful. But here's the problem. What does Rabbi Yochanan do with the Mishnah? So saying, remember again, I do want to point out, what's the issue with our Mishnah? Our Mishnah is a stam Mishnah, right? There's no machlokis in the Mishnah. There's no, this one said this, which seems to tell us that what? That it's the halach, meaning that everybody agrees with it. So what is Rabbi Yochanan going to do with our Mishnah? So remember again, let's go back. What does Rabbi Yochanan hold? Rabbi Yochanan's interpretation of Rabbi Meir is what? Es shadar kol limanos, which means that for an item to be a davar chashuv, it has to be es shadar kol limanos. It's exclusively sold as an individual unit. The problem is a shar does not conform to that category. So I don't know why I keep turning it back. But what is Rabbi Yochanan? What is Rabbi Yochanan going to do with our Mishnah? So the Gemara says, here we go. I'm going to tease you with this. We're going to start this, then we'll have to stop. Papa, Hai Tana, the Tana of our Mishnah, Rabbosai, is a different Tana. It's the Tana the litra ketzios. I will say ultimately again, it's going to be the Tana of the litra ketzios. We're going to define that case tomorrow. But again, I will say, let's read the next line. The Amar, top of Ayin Gimel, Kol davar sheyesh bo minyan. But so we're going to see the Tana of our Mishnah Bosai is reflective of another approach to this sugya, which says that what? Kol davar sheyesh bo minyan. Anything that I will say that is normally that has any shaykhus to being counted individually. Afilu b'dirabanan lo batel. Rabbi say, look at Rashi on top of Ayin Gimel for just a moment. Kol davar sheish bo minyan, kol shedar kol imanos klal. Any item, Rabbi say, that at any point in time is ever counted as an individual unit. So Rabbi say, we're going to see now, and see up until this point in time, we were assuming that there are two mahalchim in Rabbi Meir. There's either kol shadar kol imanos or esh shadar kol imanos. But even kol shadar kol imanos, I presupposes that what? That the overwhelming majority of the time, the item is sold as an individual unit. It's just that sometimes it's sold as part of a group. There's another opinion. And the other opinion, says kol davar sheyesh bo minyan, kol shadar kol imanos klal. Any item that is even sometimes sold, even rarely sold, as an individual unit, kigon litros shel ketzios, as we will see in the case of litra shel ketzios, sherov b'nei adam ein mochen b'minyan, eladarsin osabigos. So we'll say litra shel ketzios means a cake of pressed figs. Cakes of pressed figs that were often pressed into what litra, we'll say, is a ketzia, means a pressed fig, a dried out pressed fig. So the litra is a measurement. So we'll say when it comes to cakes of pressed figs, it's the so sherobene adam ein mochrim b'minyan eladarsin also be eagle. So we'll say when it comes to a litra of pressed figs, so even though we call it a litra, that's the very often the measurement was highly imprecise. what would you do, Rabbi say? You'd gather a bunch of figs that looked, what do they call it? Eyeballed it, right? You eyeballed it, right? You eyeballed the figs, you kind of gather them together, you press them together. There's a whole mechanism for pressing them together. So sometimes you sell 1 litra, sometimes you sell 2 litras. Now, more often than not, you never sold 1 litra of pressed figs. Nobody ever bought a litra. Everybody knows that. You never bought 1 litra of pressed figs. Very often you bought a number of different litros. We'll say, could it happen that sometimes you'd buy a litra? Could it happen? Could it happen?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Did it happen? Almost never. But the fact that sometimes it happened was enough for this particular Tana, the Tana to be named tomorrow in tomorrow's daf, to go ahead and say it's a davar shabaminyan, it's a davar chashuv, and therefore it's not batal. So we'll say, so we're going to see now what we're going to call the Tana of the litra ketzios. The Tana of the litra, the famous Tana of the litra of pressed figs. We'll say he is of the opinion that any item that is ever sold individually is considered to be a davar chashuv, and therefore is not batal. And I will say, as we're going to see, this is going to be the most overwhelmingly expansive, all-encompassing definition of a davar chashuv. Because I will say, essentially what it's going to say is that what? Essentially any item that is ever potentially sold as an individual unit, even if 99% of the time it is not, is still going to be considered a davar chashuv, and therefore again will not be batal. So let's just read the first 2 lines. Called davar sheish bo minyan afilu b'drabanan. We'll say any item that is normally, that is even sometimes, even rarely sold by itself, is going to be a davar chashuv, and therefore again will not be batal when it comes to rabbinic law, the chol shekain b'daraisa. And all the more so what? When it comes to biblical law. So I will say, what we're going to see, and we'll pick up with this tomorrow, but what we're going to see is we thought this entire time that our Mishnah was reflective of the view of Rabbi Meir, who held that what? That a davar chashuv is not batal. It turns out that, well, look, let's put it like this. According to Reish Lakish's interpretation of Rabbi Meir, the Mishnah works beautifully, even according to Rabbi Meir, right? Because again, remember, you could say that remember again, what's Reish Lakish's definition? Reish Lakish's definition of Rabbi Meir is kol shedar kol limanos. An animal fits into that category, and I understand why the animal therefore is a davar chashuv, not batal. According to Rabbi Yochanan, he has a stricter interpretation of Rabbi Meir, and therefore he holds what Rabbi say, es shedar kol limanos, in which case we're not sure how to interpret the Mishnah. To which you have to say that according to Rabbi Yochanan, he would have to say the Mishnah does not reflect the view of Rabbi Meir, rather the Mishnah reflects the view of the Tana of Litra Ketzios, who has a much more expansive definition of a davar chashuv, which in Me'eretz Hashem we will see tomorrow. But I will say, what I want you to remember is, in addition to the understanding of it, so also we emerge with 2 things. So first of all, again, the Gemara teaches us a quick review. Number 1, we need the Mishnah in Avodah Zarah, and we need the Mishnah in Maseches Zevachim. Mishnah Avodah Zarah teaches me that what? That ultimately, again, the laws of bittul will apply, or I should say, when something that is asr ba'ana gets mixed into a mixture, it'll be asr even for hejur purposes. The Mishnah in Maseches Zevachim teaches me that when a davar that is asr ba'ana gets mixed in for carbonic purposes, the mixture will be invalidated for carbonic purposes. That's the two Mishnayos. We'll say then the Gemara question, well, why isn't the shar batal? So we'll say the Gemara seems to indicate the reason the shar is not batal is why? Because it's a davar chashuv, and a davar chashuv is not batal. That's the bottom line. We'll say, but we learn a fundamental machlokes in the laws of bittul. Rabbi Meir teaches us, Rabbi Meir is the father of the concept that a davar chashuv is not batal. Father, davar chashuv is not batal. The machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is how we define a davar chashuv. Rabbi Yochanan saying Rabbi Meir holds that what? Es shedar kol limnos. Only an item that is exclusively sold as an individual unit, never sold as part of a group, is called chashuv and not batal. Reish Lakish is saying kol shedar kol limanos. Any item that is normally sold as individual units, even if it's sometimes sold as part of a group, is also not going to be batal. That's the machlokes in Rabbi Meir. The Gemara leaves us off on a little bit of a cliffhanger. There is another Tana also takes a much more expansive definition of davar chashuv, namely, any item that is even sometimes sold as an independent entity will not be batal, will be considered to be a davar chashuv, and we'll pick up with that tomorrow.